Alright, so just as promised, here we have biological molecules. And this is another topic in biology that is a grade 10, 11 ordinary level. We're looking at carbohydrates, fats, and of course proteins. So these are the biological molecules we'll be looking at, which are very essential nutrients in the human body as well as in other living organisms, that is, of course, plants and animals. So, what are carbohydrates? These are sugar molecules that are very necessary to the human body and other living organisms because these are, of course, sources of energy. Okay. Then we have fats. Well, these are for insulation. These are fat molecules are there for insulation, okay? And of course, proteins are for cell repair. But don't you worry, I have notes on these under the role of these biological molecules in the human body and other living organisms under the role of each biological molecule in living organisms. But first off, let's look at what is contained in these biological molecules. So if we see with carbohydrates, we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. With fats, we have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. With proteins, however, we have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Right. Well, the thing is, we sometimes have phosphorus or sulfur. Okay? So if you see with carbohydrates and fats, they have the same makeup almost, except that fats have a much more energy content compared to carbohydrates. That's why fats are stored in the body as a reserve. In the case where we don't have sugar anymore in the body, we can use the fats. It's more like burning the fat in order to have energy in the body. So, what sources of carbohydrates do we have? We have bread, we have maize, potatoes, and rice. You must know these. Sources of fats, we have meat, cheese, eggs, milk, butter. Perfect. Proteins, we have meat, fish, well, red meat specifically, okay? Fish, eggs, milk, and cheese. So those are our biological molecules. Now, moving on to an in depth focus of each biological molecule. We'll start with carbohydrates first. Yeah. Carbohydrates first. Where do we start? Oh, it's right over here. Carbohydrates. There we go. Carbohydrates. Right. So, what's the structure of carbohydrates? The smallest building block we have is glucose. So, from glucose comes all manner of carbohydrates. Of course, we have three groups. We have monosaccharides, these are simple sugars. And we have glucose, fructose, galactose. Again, you must know these. Then we have disaccharides, which are composed of two monosaccharide molecules. That means two simple sugar molecules make up a disaccharide. And we have sucrose and lactose. Then we have polysaccharides, which are complex sugars made up of thousands of simple sugar molecules. And of these, we have starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Now, we will look at the role of carbohydrates in living organisms. So, number one, carbohydrates are the main source of energy for cells. That's why we always need sugar. Okay? That's why we always need to have eating starch goods such as rice or bread, which are rich in starch for energy, because carbohydrates are the main source of energy for cells. Fats, however, are just an energy reserve, which means in the case where we have no more enough sugar from carbohydrates in the body, we now rely on the fats. Okay? Moving on. Um, Carbohydrates are the building block for disaccharides and polysaccharides, which were covered over here. Then, uh, carbohydrates are stored as glycogen in animal tissues? Well, actually, to be more specific, glucose is stored as glycogen in animal tissues. Well, animal tissues and the human body as well. It is an energy reserve. So glycogen is an energy reserve. That means the glycogen can be converted to glucose. In the cases where energy is needed by the body. Then we'll move on to the next bullet point, which says that carbohydrates, or rather glucose, is stored as starch in plant tissues. Again, starch is an energy reserve in plants. In the cases whereby, let's say, the embryo plant, which we covered in enzymes, needs food, so the starch will be broken down to glucose. If we need to know more on that, I suggest you go and watch the video on enzymes part 2, which deals with, of course, the effect of pH and the role of enzymes in seed germination. Perfect. Then we have cellulose, which is the main material that makes up the cell wall in plant cells. There we go. So we have, of course, the whole of carbohydrates covered in, let's say, 6 minutes, which is quite a fair deal if you consider the amount of paperwork you have to go through in the textbook. So this is a good deal. You know what I'm saying? So just saying. Yeah. So moving on to fats. Fats. All right. Fats. The structure of fats is simple. We need 3 fatty acids in 1 glycerol molecule to make a fat molecule. To make fat molecules. Now, we have 2 types of fats. We have saturated fats, which are where the fatty acids have single bonds between the carbon pairs. Excuse me. And these are the hard fats. Saturated, just gives you a feel like, it's hard, saturated, concentrated, solid form, hard fats, margarine, butter. Whether it's margarine or margarine, let's not get caught on that. Hard fat is the focus point. Good. Unsaturated fats. These ones deal with fatty acids with double bonds between 1 or more carbon pairs. Why do we have unsaturated fats with double bonds? According to chemistry, once there are double bonds, these double bonds can be broken further to a single bond. That's why it's unsaturated, which means it can be broken down further. So we have oil and other, oil is the only unsaturated fat, okay, which of whose bonds can be broken down further. But compared to saturated fats, here with the single bond, a single bond can't be broken any further. That is why it's saturated. A double bond can be broken further. That is why it's unsaturated. So saturated basically kind of gives you a feel that that's the end point. There is no more breaking down of this fat. And there we have the structure of fats and lipids. Lipids are the oil, the fats, the hard fat. Now, what's the role of fats in living organisms? Well, number one, fats are used as an energy store. As an energy store, that means it's stored up as energy in the cases whereby, of course, the body needs sugar and there are no enough amounts of sugar in the body. Then we move on to quickly formation of insulation against heat loss, whereby, well, we'll just end the video here because, of course, we've reached the limit. We just do a part 2 on the role. Yes.